culture, keep the big shoes. One set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. Every picture you take and promise you make, everything you do is about clouds. Then you come into me for I shake your hand, there's nothing to smile about. Corruption inside every sector, but when it comes to them they send you. Try investigate efficiency, right? Go talk to Barrett and Sue. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. I done fed up of the dirty water, low pressure, want scream and tell somebody. Imagine 1500 US and they're telling me so.
Persons can do so peacefully, and they can, but blocking the road for hours is something that
Mr. Ali, I saw you blocking road. Yes, Mr. Ali.
I'm just telling you.
Mr. Ali, there are videos with you protesting, you being a scrape and a tug. Mr. Ali, this is not, listen, sometimes we gotta put our position aside.
No, this is not position.
No, we gotta put
there and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship?
Yeah, my name is Jasnity Kaldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my ex next to the cup, and what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data. I have none.
A pleasant good evening, everyone, and welcome to Over to You this evening. I hope that you are all keeping very, very well. Today is a beautiful, warm and sunny day here in the Northeast region. Listen, man, good evening to the people on the ground in Guyana. You know, you guys are the real stars here. Good evening to you guys. Good evening to everyone in the diaspora also. All right, because you guys are the support. You guys are the support. And look, man, kudos to you guys in the diaspora. You guys really care about Guyana. You guys really care about your homeland. You haven't left and went abroad and forgot about Guyana. You guys have been more than patriotic. Good evening to all of you. A pleasant good evening. Let me just go through the roll quick. You know, you guys like your little individual call-outs. Let me take a minute and a half or so and do so. Again, good evening. Welcome to the program. Please share the link and like the program. It's Over to You, a program for the people, by the people. Again, welcome one and all. Yvonne Rodriguez, welcome. Beatrice Shelby, welcome to the show. Miss Sandra Hanover, yes, freedom fighter. Welcome, Miss Hanover. Welcome to the program. Miss Vashti Megnot, welcome. Miss Ann John, it's a pleasure to see you. Welcome. Brother Jamal Aziz, all the way from Barbies. Welcome to the program. Edward Gonzalez, welcome to the program. Sharon Griffith, welcome. Mary Figueroa, all the way from Canada. Good to see you. Trey J, welcome. Nigel McKenzie, Princess Tasha, welcome. Winston Kilkenny, welcome. Welcome everyone to the program tonight. It's good to see all of you. Francis Keith Rockcliffe, welcome. Welcome. Puran Ramdas, good night to you, sir. Good night. Miss Marlene Thomas, welcome. Penelope Hudson, welcome to the program. Welcome. Mr. Conrad August, yes, what's up, my brother? Good to see you here. Pam Halls, Corinne Day, welcome. Brendan Nicholson, welcome, everyone. Precious Gold, I see you. Ian Harry, I see you too, sir. Kennedy Flormont, yes, Maryland is in the house. Welcome. Good to see you all. Miss Desiree Simons, you're down below, you're late. You're supposed to be first in line. Good to see you. Marcella Douglas, good to see everyone. If I don't call your name, Miss Rhonda Lane, you're late, but you're here. Good night. Good to see you. Hazel Johnson, Denise Booker, Shiri Hero, Alex Brush. Welcome to the program, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Please like the program, share the link. We have a lot to talk about, right? We have a lot to talk about. I noticed earlier today, I saw that the Romville Community Center was on fire, was being gutted by a fire. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you guys think about all the fires that we're having? And just let me just pivot quickly and let you guys know that Dr. David Hines should be with us this evening. Okay, Dr. Hines should be with us. He should be our guest here this evening. So Dr. Hines will be coming in shortly. Okay, Mr. Thomas Anderson, great to see you. Great to see you. Great to see you. I got to get you on here, Mr. Anderson. Good to see you. All right. Marcia Jackman, I see you too. Andrea Ned, Miss Brenda Braithwaite, Airwell Don Cook. See you guys. Yes. Good evening, Dr. Hines. Welcome to Over to You.
Hi, good evening to you, Win. Nice having me.
Yes.
Taking me out of my Saturday night. Throwback, rock back. Well, let me be careful because you're too young, so you won't know about rock back George. But the big people are going to know about rock back George. Not rock back, my Saturday evening throwback. But, you know, work is work and the struggle is on. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm going to be a bit direct with you here. You know, you've uttered the word retirement. Huh? So since you uttered the word retirement, my audience here, they're not trying to hear that. The time is not right. Okay? So by request, they want me to get you out of your bed, get you out of that rocking chair, get you up and standing because there is work to be done. Hence the reason we request your presence here this evening. So welcome, and thank you for accepting my short notice.
No problem. And I shall consider my intention to retire from politics. You know, and I do like Chalk does, put up my guns again.
Yes, that is exactly what the people of Guyana need. Dr. Hines, they need you, you know, as part of that whole coalition leadership. You know, I have said this to you before, and I'm going to say it again. You are going to play an instrumental part, you know, in getting this whole thing working. You know, it's a lot of people, it's a lot of parties, there's a lot involved, there's a lot of moving parts, you know, and sometimes it's difficult to keep up with everything. But nevertheless, as leader of the WPA, okay, a professor at Dr. Hines University of Arizona State.
No, Arizona State
University, yes.
University of Arizona is the other one. Arizona is a strange place, you know. It has 3 big universities and perhaps about 4 or 5 small universities. It's whereas the other states in the United States, you can find, you know, no less than 20 universities in the state. In Arizona, you have 3 big state universities. Arizona State in the middle. To the north, you have Northern Arizona, and to the south, you have University of Arizona. So there's 3 big states, and the one that I teach in is the largest university in the United States.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. It's a little bit larger than University of Texas at Austin, which is the 2nd largest university in the US. So yes, Arizona is interested in that way. It doesn't have plenty university, but it has 3 big universities.
3 massive ones, and the one you teach at is Arizona State University.
Arizona State, right?
University. Thank you so much for clarifying that, Dr. Hines. So let's kick in a little bit, Dr. Hines here. I want to first pose the question to you as to what is your thoughts? Because look, here comes another day, you know, and we have not gotten any kind of solid feedback from the government, you know, regarding the death of young Adriana Young. You know, what is your thoughts?
Well, look, the death of young Adriana Young has really, the young people, they would say, skin up Guyana. And what has happened is in Guyana is in skin up mode, and everything that we have been complaining about for the last 33 years, but in particular the last 5 years, and so many of us have been despairing about, all of those things now are falling into pieces. We have had this ongoing tussle with the PPP about whether they are a dictatorship, about whether they're corrupt, about whether they are distributing resources uneven, about whether Black people are crossing over to the PPP, all these things. And many people would argue that the PPP may have been winning that PR, that people over time had come. I hear people say the PPP would win the next election with 2/3 majority and all. And some of our people were beginning to believe maybe this thing is true. The opposition, as the official opposition, has come under tremendous criticism from its own supporters for not being forthright and not being more militant, etc., etc. But what we have seen is, and I think Novella Noble used the term on my show last night, which you were on, and she said, what this death of this child has done, it has triggered something in Guyana. And you know, when something is triggered in one part of the system, it shakes the entire system. And so what we have seen is the entire political, economic, socio-cultural system of Guyana has shaken. The fundamental question the government must answer is that if you're a democratic government, if you are a government that is accountable to your people, if you're a just government, if you're a fair government, why the death of a little child cannot be solved in short order? What is it about the death of this child that forces in Guyana are eager to hide, and that the government seems hesitant to allow to come into the open? And so therefore, as I started by saying, this case has skinned up, the young people say, skin up the government. And I think, as we have begun to see, every day in Guyana, there is some protest, there is some rally for justice, there is some picket, not only in Guyana, outside of Guyana. And now we are seeing some. This morning I woke up, my phone was ringing all morning, and I said, my goodness, you know, I am 3 hours behind the East Coast, 3 hours behind Guyana, let me sleep in peace. And I think, you know, I woke up to see that people are calling to tell me that some bomb somebody threw at some one of the police stations or the outposts in Georgetown. Look, you're going to continue to see some development of that type, of other type in Guyana, all right? Because the country has suddenly awoken to the reality that we are living in serious times, and that we have 750,000 people at home, another 2.5 million abroad, who have always questioned the legitimacy of this government. And if people, by legitimacy, we mean whether the people, the vast majority of people, feel that the government has a right to govern. All right? And that's what we mean by legitimacy. And people are questioning the legitimacy of this government because the government is not being able to do basic things. The basic function of government first is to look after the welfare of its citizens. That's the first function of any government. That here are parents who have lost a child and they cannot find the child on their own. The child, they turn to the police, which is the state. All right? The police could not deliver their child to them. The child turns up dead. Who killed this child? What are the circumstances under which the child is killed? They're asking that. And now, it's not only they're asking it. the larger society is asking it. They are calling on the government to carry out its basic function, which is to look after the welfare of the citizens of the country. I was perusing the Guyana Constitution. It doesn't use the word welfare in that sense. But in the United States, if you go to the state constitution of any of the states in the United States, it is said there explicitly that the function of government is to look after the welfare of the citizens.
Yes.
In Europe, we talk about the welfare state. And we in Guyana, we inherited the welfare state from England. And the welfare state means that government, the state, its primary function is to look after the welfare of its citizens. That's where the whole notion of welfare comes from. In the United States, they, in recent times, have misused and misrepresent the meaning of welfare, right? But in Europe, when you use the word welfare, it's really serious. It is the primary function of the government. And here you're talking about the welfare of a child. And the government cannot deliver on that basic function. Any government that fails to deliver on the basic function of guaranteeing the welfare of its citizens, that government becomes illegitimate. It may be legal because there was an election. Mm-hmm. Regardless of the outcome of the election, they were declared the winner, and they, in that sense, they're legal. But it is their legitimacy that is being questioned. And when the legitimacy of government is being questioned, the society becomes unstable. It becomes unstable because the people, by their actions, directly or indirectly, are saying, we do not feel that you can guarantee our welfare. The parents are saying, we don't trust the results of an autopsy. I mean, in my lifetime, I never thought that I would witness that. That when the state carries out an autopsy, that people are going to question the results of that autopsy. That's deep, right? People are calling me this morning to say, Dr. Hines, I think the government threw that bomb at that police thing, that the PPP did it in order to distract from what's happening. People have lost confidence in the government to govern them, and we are at a bad place. The Attorney General said, in charging me personally, he said, David Hines, the man from Arizona, is responsible for those guys, the 100 and odd guys that they've arrested for terrorism. All right? Mm-hmm. So he said, I am responsible, man. He looks at me, and I have orgasmic. You heard the term he used? I have, he can look in my face and can see the glee and orgasmic satisfaction that people are destroying the country. And I was around politics before that chap started wearing diapers. And there was a time when Indian people said that the government of Burnham was not legitimate. And they were burning canes to show their dissatisfaction. Instead of reaping that cane and turning it into sugar to bring money to the country, they burned the cane. And these people want to point in my face and tell me people who look like me are now burning roads and some over there wrong? Huh? People all over the world, they turn to what their hands and eyes or whatever they're on. If I am in front of this computer as I am now, and the computer is stalling, my first instinct is to want to, come on. All right? You see, human beings respond to what is next to them. And so therefore, what we are seeing is the legitimacy of this government that is being questioned. And I would think that has passed the point of being questioned to the point where the legitimacy of the government has gone.
So basically putting it in a nutshell, Dr. Hines, you're saying that this government is incapable of performing just the basic functions of government.
Yes.
Just the basic,
basic functions of government. And I can say, look after the legitimacy, the welfare of its citizens, promote the equality and justice in the society, ensure the rule of law. Those are the basic functions of government. The welfare of the people, promote the rule of law, ensure that there is justice and equality, distribute resources.
This equal distribution of wealth, correct.
Yeah. In political science, we say the definition of politics is who gets what, when, and how. Who gets what, when, and how. And since we as individual human beings can't do it for ourselves, we have created this thing called the state and the government to do it for us. But they must do it in our name, because each of us that goes to the ballot and puts our ink there, we are entrusting the government, all right, to distribute the common resources, whether it's water, whether it's the air we breathe, whatever that resource is, whether it's the oil that comes from the bottom of the sea. We are saying to that government, your basic function, one of them, is to distribute the resources equitably. And the government is failing to produce those basic functions. And so people are saying, well, you don't have the right to govern. We have an old thing we laugh at in Buxton. We had an old folklorist, a teacher George Young. You know, he's a man, a Proverbs man, they used to call him, and so forth. And Buxton, like most villages, I suspect, people that's dead in clusters. Like right now, in the last, I see Dennis Bouquet, in the last 6 weeks to 2 months, we have had probably a funeral every 2 days, and so on. You say, God, especially this May, June, when the rain come, people are dead. Teacher Charge used to move out from Buxton when people start dead. You move out and go and charge to your family here.
Come back after.
when they said they don't, I'm telling that story that even God, Teacher Charles didn't trust for Sperry when they dead and so on. He said, me can't pay bicycle. You're going from Buxton when they start and so on. And human beings do that. We are not physically leaving Guyana, but people are physically, and well, not physically, they are intellectually and mentally saying to this government, you dep on your own. Like Teacher George, you too much of dead a pass. You now represent dead. Me gone, me move out. And so psychologically, people have departed from this government. And I don't think the government knows that yet. I don't think they know that yet, because they are so caught up in the cocoon that they've built around themselves. They don't have a sense of what's happening around them. You know, they're doing all kinds of crazy things, calling people who thief from a Chinese store terrorists. They're busy because they do not realize the crisis that is before them. At least Teacher George said, oh, Jesus Christ. Them people are dead there. Me no one dead now. Me go away from Buxton. Me come back when the dead they pass.
Well said, Dr. Hines. And look, guys, you gotta love Dr. Hines. He's authentic. He tells it as it is, and you know that's one of the qualities in you, Dr. Hines, that I love so much. But I have this question for you, because you spoke of democracy, you know, and Guyana is supposed to be a representational democracy, and I want to ask you this question. Currently, where we're sitting, the posture of this government. Do you believe that Guyana is a democracy?
Well, look, democracy has different definitions. you talk about a representative democracy.
Yes, it's a broad, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what representative democracy means is that, look, we are electing people to represent us in the halls of power. The opposite of that is direct democracy, where everybody in the community is there and they make the laws and so on. We used to have that in the city-states of Greece, in Athens, ancient Greece.
Yes, way back when, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. And there are a couple of communities in New England, in the United States, where people in the communities, they don't elect people. They meet in the city hall and they all make the laws. And it's called direct democracy. So there's direct democracy, there's representative democracy.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is what we call formal democracy, which means that you have the forms of democracy. You have elections, you have a parliament, a legislature, you have an executive government, what we call the government, the cabinet, we have the court. So we have the forms of democracy. Every 5 years, we have an election and so on. Whether, in fact, those elections are free and fair is another question.
Mm-hmm. All right.
You have a police force. Whether, in fact, that police force is upholding the rule of law is another question. You have a parliament. Whether, in fact, that parliament guarantees your representative to have their voices heard is another story. So we are now moving from formal democracy or democratic forms to substantive democracy. And here is where Guyana is an autocracy. It has the forms of democracy. There were some other countries like military, where the military rule, the military takes over, they suspend the parliament, they suspend the courts, you're ruling by military law. So they don't even have democratic forms, right?
Right.
At least our parliament is not suspended.
Right.
Our courts are still there, the police force are still there. But whether, in fact, those institutions are carrying out the basic functions of government. Are those institutions that I call there, are they guaranteeing the safety of children? Are they guaranteeing equitable distribution of resources? Are they guaranteeing the right to health care? Are they guaranteeing the right to the freedom of speech? Are they guaranteeing the God-given rights that we have? And that's where the Guyana government now is moving from a formal democracy, all right, to an autocracy. Because substantively, there is one person, one vote. But what is the outcome of one person, one vote? Is the outcome that each person is guaranteed the right to life? Is each person guaranteed the right to work? Is each person guaranteed, in a sense, before guilt is proven? And all those things that we talk about when we talk about democracy. So what we have in Guyana are democratic forms,
right,
but no democratic substance. In that sense, the country is not a democracy. Our own, so that formal democracy is defined as institutions. You have democratic institutions. Our own Sir Arthur Lewis of St. Lucia, Nobel Prize winner in economics, said democracy in societies like ours in the Caribbean, in particular places like Guyana, Africa, he was talking about West Africa. Democracy must mean that all those who are affected by a decision are contributing to making the decision.
Correct. And Dr. Hines, that's well said, because when you look at the number of seats that the PPP has in Parliament and the number of seats the opposition have in Parliament, right? There's not much of a disparity there. But yet, you find that all the pertinent decisions with regards to Guyana is being made by one side of the aisle, right?
Yes.
And isn't it, Dr. Hines, that both the opposition and the lead party in government is supposed to come together, and that is what forms a government, right? So if you have it that is just one side that is making all the decisions, that cannot be an efficient government, because you're not getting anything from the other side, because one side is not listening to the other side, it is not engaging with the other side, And I believe that from a holistic perspective, the country is losing. What is your take on that? Because the PPP does not want to engage the opposition when it comes to pertinent decision making, unless it is regarding the Venezuela border controversy. What is your take on that?
And that is an assault on the basic principle of democracy, an assault on the basic principle of democracy, especially in a country like ours. In a country like ours, where historically we didn't ask for it, but that's where we are. East Indian people elect or vote for a government that looks like them. African people do the same. So each side is saying, look, we don't want to be governed by the other. We don't want to be governed by Indian people. Indian people are saying we don't want. We are voting for our own. Now, you have to fashion a system to accommodate that truism. We have a thing in Guyana, we try to bring people together. I hear, for example, on the Adriana thing, we're very quick. They say, Adriana's death has brought our country together. There's nothing more untrue than that. You just have to go on social media and look at the comments under this program and look at the names, and you will see what East Indians are saying and what Africans are saying. We are even now more apart than we were when Adriana died. Look, East Indians are now more interested in Baby Skello song than they're interested in this child's life. They're saying, look, the child dead from drowning, all you black people shut up and go home. They're now even attacking the family, which is unheard of. At least you don't attack the family. You may say the opposition taking advantage of this thing, but now they're attacking the family. The East Indian view of what is happening in Guyana is totally different. If somebody comes from Mars, East Indians are going to be telling them about rigged election. They're going to be telling them about people born in Rhodes and looting, and Africans are going to be telling them about an 11-year-old child that died. I can put my neck on the block. You come from Mars and you say, what's happening in Guyana? All right? East Indians are going to, Amerindians may tell you both sides. They may tell you a child died, there was some looting, and so on and so forth. But East Indians are going to tell you about burning roads. They're going to tell you about looting. They're going to tell you about throwing acid in people's face and so on. If they mention the 11-year-old girl's death, it's by the way. But when you go on and speak to Africans, the first thing they will tell you is that there was an 11-year-old girl that was abducted and her body appeared the next day. So you have two different narratives about what's happening in the same country. Oh, what are you telling me that our country has come together? And so now, the so-called civil society are now saying, let us have calm and peace. So one child loses, one side loses a child. The other side is about somebody singing about their religion. All right? And you are saying that let us have peace. This child's death has not yet been accounted for. This child's family, this child's community has not been satisfied. And you all are telling us, let's have peace and calm. So we must have peace and calm without justice. Without justice, right? Now, at least Indian people going to say, 40 pandits of the West Coast come out and they hold up a placard and say, this Baby Skello sing about the Hindu goddess Lakshmi. And the next day, they arrest that boy and start questioning. Contrary to natural law. So at least the Indian complaints are seen a semblance of justice. Nobody has been charged or arrested for the death of this child. There's no justice for the African Guyanese side. There at least is a semblance of justice, even perversion of the law. There's nothing in the laws of Guyana that says that singing a dirty stink and dirty song is a violation of the Constitution. If that were so, the whole PPP government would be violating the Constitution because they have promoted stink and dirty lyrics. Baby Skello did not drop from the sky. He's singing what people buy. You should hear, well, you all on Facebook, and you all hear the stink and dirty song that you see the president jumping up. That's the most because he cannot dance. You jump up. And yeah.
And wind up yourself though. That time just wind up though, just wind up.
They are there talking, dancing to a stink and dirty song, while our boys, your sons, your brothers, my son, my grandsons are being shot at the border. And they're dancing to stink and dirty song. And Baby Skello is being hauled before the police, a police that can't tell us how this little child dead. That police can pull in Baby Skello for singing some song. So at least Indians are being given a sense of justice for their complaint, even if it means violating the law, taking away the right of free speech. And Africans, the family of that young girl, has not been given any justice. And that is the Guyana that will. And once you have that type of Guyana, my brother, there is going to be instability.
Well, you know, Doctor, and that's well said, Dr. Hines. That's well said. And I could not have agreed with you more. I mean, over history, we have seen that, you know, Africans have always gotten the bad end of the stick over and over and over again. You know, it's something that is consistent. It is something that never surprised me. But Dr. Hines, what I'm seeing with, you know, Guyanese of African descent is that they're no longer willing to accept that. They're no longer willing to accept that. That is a good thing, and it is also the right thing. You know, they should not always receive the bad end of the stick. You know, whenever, like for example, this Adriana Young, you know, this tragedy, you know, an 11-year-old, and you're asking a community to be calm, you know, and for there to be no violence, for there to be no unrest. I mean, while you as a government, I mean, we talk about taking care of the basic duties of the citizens of, you know, that you're the government of. You're not executing that. There is no transparency. There is no independence between yourself and the Guyana Police Force, which is a part of the state. Okay, the Guyana Police Force is not an independent autonomous body. It's basically an arm of the PPPC. But you're still asking people to be calm, people to be patient, okay, and people to sit and wait for justice. Look, Dr. Hines, look, we're still calling for justice for that young man that was shot during the protests in Linden. That has gone quiet.
Unfortunate.
Yes, because of, you know, young Adriana Young, you know, that tragedy has really taken precedent. You know, we look at our age, we look at the circumstances, right? An empty pool, and then a pool populated with the lifeless body, you understand me, of this baby that all of us who are parents in Guyana is calling our own, right? And then you look at that young man just going about his business and getting shot in the head by the police. You had the RSS down in Guyana dealing with the first case, of course, where the police was you know, ultimately charged with that murder. Of course, you can't look, Dr. Hines, even with the first case where the policeman shot that young man, and he's being charged with that murder. You just can't call that justice as yet, huh? You can't call it justice. We didn't have a trial yet. You don't know what is going to be the outcome. Okay? And history have told us that, you know, a lot of time the police end up walking free. So justice is not served yet. The officer is charged with the murder, but justice has not been served yet. But the other young man, nobody has yet been charged with that murder, because that is murder. He was going about his business and he got shot in the head. You can't call that accidental. There's a protest. You should not be using live rounds. That equates to murder. And if you're going to use live rounds, I believe that you should be notifying the protesters that, you know, if you continue this, we're going to be using live rounds. You just can't start using live rounds like that. You're not supposed to use it in the first place. That's a human rights violation. Dr. Hines, what is your take on, you know, there not being a call for further investigations into how this young man in Linden would have been going about his business, normal everyday business, and being shot in the head, leaving wife and children?
And another young man was shot in his eye in Linden.
Right, that's the one I'm talking about, actually. The other one, yes. Not the first one. The first one, the officer's been charged with that murder.
Yeah, Ken Virginia was, but there is another guy from Linden in the subsequent year. He was shot in the eye. His name doesn't come to me. There are two guys. When the protest that erupted after Adriana was found, the protest in Linden, a guy was shot in his eye.
Wow.
He was closing up his windows. All right. So there is that.
Yes, but he didn't die.
No, he didn't die. Then there's a guy.
Yes, I think
there's a guy from my village who was killed. They said he was in some robbery. As it turned out, the guy they killed that guy in front of the hospital. Look, all of those things are wrapped up in the Adriana stuff. What Adriana has done is that from the Henry boys, come right through, and even before the Henry boys, we're going back now to Ronald Waddle. We're going back now to the 400 African men who were killed by the Phantom Squad. Adriana's murder has brought all of those things into the open. And that is the panoramic impact of that incident. Now, here is what part of the problem is. Part of the problem is that Africans are not seen as fully formed human beings. I am not blaming an individual Indian or an individual Amerindian or even an individual African middle class person. But there's a consensus in societies where Black people live in that the tenets of what makes a human being are not fully developed in Africans. At the end of slavery, the white people in the United States wanted African people out. There was something called the African Colonization Society. These are white people who pool money together, and then the government gave money to get Black people out of America, because they said that these people cannot exist in a state of freedom. Let me repeat that. These Black people cannot exist in a state of freedom. They send some back to Liberia, as we know. All right? And African people say, so if you think we can't develop in a state of freedom, then we don't need to be among you. So some Africans volunteered, send me up there, and some volunteered and went back to Liberia. Some of them were sent in an island off Haiti. No light, no water, no electricity, uninhabitable, and they came back to America. But the point I wish to make here is the feeling that these people cannot exist in a state of freedom. Now, I know when scrapers call themselves scrapers, what they mean. They mean holding on, all in all, holding on. They're scraping. We scraping. we scrunting a living. They know what they mean. But when others talk about scrapers, what they mean is that these are not fully formed human beings, that we got to send them to psychiatrists, that they are crazy. So although we are using the same term scrapers, the scrapers understand what it means. It's like the N-word that we use. When a little African boy says, "What's up, my nigga?" he's using that as a term of endearment. When white folks say, "You nigga," they are using it as a term meaning that you are less than human being. All right? So we have to understand the use of this term scrapers. When them boys use the word scraper, they use it in the same way that the Jamaicans would say the sufferers. The same thing that we understand that the system has made a judgment on us. And we are embracing that judgment not to dehumanize ourselves. We are embracing that judgment to humanize ourselves. So when a scraper says, "I's a scraper," he's using it in a humanizing sense. And maybe you may have pushed me on the edges of society, but I'm still holding on and I'm still scraping by. All right? When they say scraper, they are using it to mean that those boys are outside of the system. They're outside of the human ecology. They're outside of the human family. And so it's there. It's there. There's a way in which, and we've seen it now with Indian brothers and sisters, good people. But it comes easy from them out. Are you hungry belly people? Are you a monkey? It comes easy. Because what is it? It is normative in their worldview. And the only reason that they have not been using it more widely is because the society has put sanctions on them. By if I call the man a nigga, he gonna beat me up. Right? If I watch the black man and I call it thing, he big and strong, he gonna beat me up. Now we have a government which is big and strong and which is beating up on that strong black man. Now I have license to call him a nigger, to tell him he's monkey and thing. And so it is not that Indian people are bad. It is not that Indian people wake up and say, I'm putting down black people. That it is normative to put black people down. It's normal. They were slaves. And no human being wants to be a slave. So what we do is that we separate ourselves from blackness. As an instinct, black people do it. Black people separate. I bet you 9 out of 10 black people are up on this show. It don't happen. But the average black person at 2 o'clock in the morning in any part of America see a black chap in a hoodie on one side of the street at 1 o'clock in the morning, they're crossing and going to the other side. Because there are assumptions of a black boy with a hoodie and what he means. A white junkie gonna be walking that same street with the thing and the thing, and we won't cross the street. We would, all away a little bit because he ain't smelling nice, right? But we ain't gonna cross the street. It's the value system. The value system that we put on black lives. And in Guyana, our governments have passed laws. What we have not done is that we have not educated the society about the equality and equitability of human lives. We deal in forms. Jack Dion says the other day, it is time to have civic education. And everybody said, oh, very good, very good. What people are not asking, when the civic education starts, the first thing they will put, Cheddi Jagan is father of the nation. That will be the first thing you will learn in civic. Cheddi Jagan is the father of the nation. The next thing you will learn in those civic is that indentureship and slavery were the same thing. So, again, the reason the government is angry with people like me is that when you say that you're going to have civic, you're not impressing me because I know what your civic going to be. your civic will be very uncivil. All right? The first thing you will teach is that Chetty Jagan is the father of the nation. Second thing is that indentureship is the same as slavery. Third thing is that the PNC rig election. That is the civic they're going to teach our children. And so I hear some of our well-meaning black middle class people saying, yes, it is time we have civic. But they're not taking into consideration is who calling for civic. And yes, so the society has to wake up to the reality of what we live in and the different value systems in our country.
But Dr. Hines, an excellent point. But when Barry Jagdeo is going to sit there and call for civic education, now you had your thumbs on Guyana for 23 straight years. Where was civic education at that point? Why is it that you are now calling for civic education? You know, it is quite interesting. What I believe that Barry Jagdeo right now is very, very concerned about the 2025 elections, you know, and he's not comfortable. Deep down inside, he knows that the PPP is not going to win the election. Hence, he's starting to talk about shared governance, about shared power. You hear all of these things coming out, Dr. Hines, shared governance, shared power, you know. It concerns me because I think I spoke about it briefly on your program, that we cannot have shared power right now in Guyana. Anybody who agreed to share power is committing suicide against particular ethnic groups in Guyana. Because over the last 23 to 30 years, there have not been anything close to distribution of wealth, proper distribution of wealth, equitable distribution of wealth in Guyana. And the economic infrastructure in Guyana is totally built out by the PPP for the PPP. Okay? And it's biased, that economic infrastructure is biased against certain other ethnic groups in the country. My belief is that that needs to be eradicated and rebuilt, okay? Where there's an even playing field, all right? And everyone has an opportunity, all right? So, as I said, Dr. Hines, and I know that you are a part of the opposition. You're a big part of the opposition. As I sit here, I am going to watch the posture of the opposition. Because if you ask me my opinion right now would be that the opposition needs to go ahead, okay, and win this election. Win this election and put new policies in place. Policies that will benefit all Guyanese, all 6 ethnic groups. Policies that's going to make Guyana equitable for all, okay? Policies that's going to bring about prosperity for all Guyanese, instead of 53% of Guyanese being, living in poverty. 70% of young children in Guyana, experiencing some measure of child poverty, right? To go with Guyana being the fastest growing economy, Dr. Hines, I believe that we have lost a lot over the first 5 years of oil due to mismanagement. What is your take about the mismanagement of our resources?
Well, the mismanagement of resources is the outgrowth of the autocratic superstructure. When you have an undemocratic and autocratic government and an autocratic state, what flows from that is the maldistribution of the resources, right? Because the system is not set up to deliver resources in a democratic way. And so therefore, ultimately what you will have in a system like that is resources that are not adequately distributed. I want to address the point that you were making about why is it they're talking about things now like civics and these things.
Yes, Dr. Hines.
Those things, the PPP is very clear. I mean, the PPP has intelligence. They know who killed that child. They know who killed that child. They know more about Guyana than any other government before knows, because they have a spying apparatus that is perhaps second to none. All right? You know, those of us who grew up in politics used to believe that the United States had the greatest spy apparatus in the world until we come to learn about Israel. Israel, a small nation, but when it comes to spying, and Guyana is, and one of the ironies is Guyana is using a lot of the Israeli spying material and spying tactics. This government knows who killed Adriano. And they know that once that truth comes out, none of us knows what will be left of Guyana. They know it. So what they're doing is they're trying to throw what is called some softballs at the opposition. Come, let's talk about Venezuela. God bless Aubrey Norton. He said, no, I ain't coming, right? Maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago, Aubrey Norton went.
Yes, correct.
Circumstances where our Guyanese people are on the streets and saying to this government, you're illegitimate, you can't go. So this is now beyond Norton. So the opposition is beginning to do things it didn't do 3 months ago because its own supporters are saying that this is what we did. Aubrey Norton was on the street leading a picketing demonstration yesterday. All right? How can he now not say, I'm going on the street? How can he say, no, I ain't going on the street? Because his people been on the street for the last month and a half. So the point I'm making is that the PPP is very aware of what's happening in the society as far as the instability in the society. And they're throwing softballs. So we're going to have some civic. And of course, you notice some of the black middle classes jump on that. Yes, civic is a good thing. All right? So the PPP is playing on that. Look, there's what is called soft power, and there's what is called hard power. We're going to keep the hard power. And we're going to share some soft power with you. You see, Jack Dio eventually made a differentiation between the people who are burning tires and burning roads, and blocking roads, and those who were looting. At the beginning, he lumped all of them together.
Yes, he did.
And some of us had to say, no. And we are standing that blocking roads and burning tires. The people are burning their own tires. They're blocking their own roads, and it's not a crime. Some in the opposition jumped out and said, we are not for blocking roads. Well, we forced them to pull back. That's because that's what those of us who are radicals do. Radicals go to the root. That's what radicalism means. So when some of the black middle class come out and say, we're not for blocking roads, we say to them, well, you can go to hell. All right? You're not for blocking roads, we're going to block you next. Right? And of course, they start to walk it back and so on and so forth. And Jack Dio himself said, well, some of the boys were misguided. Those are the ones who are blocking the roads and burning tires. They're misguided. And then, of course, the ones who were thinking. Now, somebody called me from the west side today and told me that they have 2 cousins who got pulled in for terrorism.
Cyber-terrorism?
The terrorists are the guys that they charge with terrorism.
Terrorism, yes. And that
family called me. Hold on, let me give you the story. Family called me, tell me they got 2 sons. Well, not 2 sons, they're families. 2 sister sons. One of them was nowhere near the scene the night he been home. The other one is a PPP Jankillar man. When the PPP holding meeting a canal, he just put up their flag and so on. And he was on the scene the night, so he put in for terrorism. He just called himself civic. So a civic get pulled in for terrorism. The point I'm making there is that when authoritarian governments make their move, they don't make the distinction between who from the other side support me. because they never need you. They were using you in the first place. All right? And now, when they're ready to bring down the hammer, they're going to hammer you. And Jack Dio said that some of the boys were pulled in wrongly, because he's aware that some of those boys are his boys, are their boys. And I am telling you, some of those boys that they're pulling there got me name, Nat name, Hughes name, Vincent Alexander name, and all of us in the opposition, they're walking around with bullets with the name right on. Because they've socialized those boys to kill us. What they don't understand is that those boys may sell themselves as mercenaries, but that does not mean that they've lost their humanity. All right? Mercenary is a selling eye on the market. All right? You want people to do your little dirty work, pay me a price, I'm going to do it. All right? All right? The sun is hot and I need something cold to drink. When the sun goes down and the rain starts fall tomorrow, that same man will say, the place cold, me want something hot for drink. Right? It changes. Human beings are complex. And so, therefore, what we are dealing with is a government that is now feeling its way. Because it does not. What those guys showed that night is that you can take over Guyana in a minute. And in one night, in a couple of them, those guys took over Guyana. Plane can't land, got turned back and got Trinidad. All right? And from village to village. That's how we foreparents used to do it. They play a drum, them talking drum, and you move from plantation to plantation. They don't need political leaders there. Right? They don't need. And when a government finds itself like that, how are you going to guarantee? Holding the thing together? If these black people find out the real truth of that child's killing, how are you going to be able to stop it? You have to depend on a black army. You have to depend on a black police force. A black police force that is so discredited among black people and discredited for different reasons among Indians. All right? How are you? It is no accident that you saw private security firms out there tonight. All right? And you're going to see more of those because the PPP is not going to depend on the legitimate forces in the society because those forces have been rendered illegitimate. The police cannot do policing in Guyana anymore. All this thing we're talking about, police reform, forget about it. You can't reform the unreformable. A new government comes in, and I can say that my party is in support of, we are arguing the police force as it stands needs to be disbanded. It needs to be disbanded, and you create a brand new institutions based on new laws, new mores. Call a state of emergency if you win the election. That's what we are saying, right? Put in an interim police institution, and you build a new police from the ground, not a police force, because the new police institution from the ground is going to be an institution that is not grounded in the policing of one ethnic institution. Our police force was created in 1839.
Yes.
1 year after emancipation in 1838. Mm-hmm. It was an institution created to force and to police Africans.
Correct.
Right through colonialism, beyond colonialism, independence, we have not changed. We have not changed the construct of that police institution. Now is the time to do it. Put in place an interim institution for a couple of months, and you begin to build a new policing institution that is grounded in the notion that each human being deserves to be protected first by the state. A police must first protect the citizens from external threat, but protect them from threat among themselves. I mean, I think it was Hobbes who said, mankind in its natural state, his life shall be short, nasty, and brutish. Right? So, in a sense, what we need, of course, is to serve as a mediator among and between us. So you're creating a new institution with a new culture, a new understanding of the complexities of Guyana. And then you move to the defense force. You cannot have a defense force where one ethnicity is making money, boku money, as we would say, while the other ethnicity is not making money, but has to face a mega army that is shooting at them every 2 mornings. We have to have an institution that reflects the ethnic makeup of the country. The ethnic makeup of the country. If Indians are making money, they must go and protect the borders to protect their money. If Indians are making money, they must not have a police institution that is there to protect their money while they sleep at night. So the whole thinking of these institutions have to undergo change. And so it's not about propping them up. It's not about police reform. We are past that. It's about new institutions that reflect where our society is.
You know, Dr. Hines, that's a very good statement. And before I even respond to your statement, I just want to hit on this comment here by Mr. Carlyle Madhu. He is saying that, you know, what he's saying basically, he doesn't like the word police force. He prefers the word police department, which I totally agree with him.
Yes.
Okay? Because, you know, force, you know, force.
Yes,
you know? Yeah. You know, and the way people are treated. And Dr. Hines, you're so correct when you talk about the reason that police force was formed, you know, is to keep, you know, Africans in check. And I could not have agreed with you more that narrative needs to be changed. That narrative needs to be changed because it is not Africans in society are the only people who are violent from time to time. Everybody gets violent from time to time. You have issues in society with all ethnic groups. Okay? So the police needs to be there to address issues regarding all 6 ethnic groups in Guyana. And not just Africans. But if you notice in all the uprisings and everything, all the protests and everything, the only people that would have gotten hurt is Guyanese of African descent.
Yes, because that's what it is.
Shot down and killed. You know, why is it always that way, Dr. Hines? Can you explain that to me? Because it cannot be by chance. It has to be by design.
It's design. Look where the police stations are located. Plaisance, BV, Buxton, Denhamstel. You go, well done. You go right through the coast and look where you have police station and where you have police outposts. All right? Look, go through. The police stations, they're all on the edges of the black community. You go to a place like Denhamstel, the station is not in the middle of Denhamstel, it's on the edge, a place called Fellowship, a little thing. All right? You go to Buxton, the station there at Vigilance, just outside Buxton. All right? Peeping in. The same thing with BV. The same thing, Plaisance, the station at Parendam, and so on. Those police stations, it is clear they are not in Indian Guyanese community. In fact, when they were created, Indian Guyanese weren't there as yet. They weren't there as yet, right? So you can see the design of the police, right? And human beings respond to what they think power. We have a civilian police, a civilian army, meaning that the ultimate command in the police is not the commissioner. The ultimate command is the civilian head of the police, which is the Minister of Home Affairs.
Right.
and by extension, the president, who is the commander-in-chief. There is nothing a policeman or woman is going to do without the express order of the political government, or if they do it without the express order of the political government, they're doing what they think the political government would want them to do.
Correct.
My brother Takumo Ogunse made the crucial point. People are in front of the hotel in Tushen. Indian people, African people. The hotel burned down. We don't know yet who burned it down. The owner's home burned down. So there was disorder in front of Tushen. The police did not fire one bullet, one pellet. As soon as that demonstration moved from Tushen to Lenora, the police descended and started to shoot Wild West. They did not shoot in the crowd at Tushen because Indian people were there. And the police force know that you can't shoot at Indian people in Guyana. You can't. Just the other day, we had at Blackbush Polo, them rice farmers cussing up and going on nasty, blacking PPP people, and I come and you so and so here and so on. All right? Did the police go there and shoot? No. Did the police go and arrest anybody for terrorism? No. 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 It is the unwritten rule that you do not shoot Indian people in Guyana. And this happens not just when PPP are in government. It's more open. Even when the black government is there, the assumption is that you don't shoot Indians. Because the assumption is that Indians are not aggressive. I asked a teacher, a young teacher, black teacher, and that teacher considered herself to be Afrocentric. I said, why do you think the police always shooting at black people and they don't shoot at Indian people? And that teacher told me, because black people are more aggressive. African teacher. Because black people, you see how even our people have come to internalize this essentialist notion of the aggressive black man. Look when they talk about people like me. David Hines is ranting. Not that David Hines is teaching or making a point. He's ranting. Nandlal said there is something innate about the ranting. Innate means that is inside of you. And it comes from you. This is particular to you. And these are not fools. They're intelligent, but I don't know about intelligent, but they're bright boys. They're bright boys. And that's the way they feel about us. That we even, the educated among us, they don't feel that we are full human. We are ranting. You know? We are ranting. We have certain innate, we are angry, you know? And so the angry black man and the angry black woman, look at the story they concoct about that little girl. It is not that she gone with her friend them to buy pizza at Perica. It is not that she gone down the road to buy chocolate. It at 11 years old, she left with a man in a car. Look at the 20 Amerindian girls who they lock up in that fortress and killed. Why they lock them up? Because they just jump out when night come and go and look man. The notion of the promiscuous black woman, the promiscuous Indian woman. And look, when Wainem talk about sex and the Indian goddess, he's not, if you understand music and expression, he's not talking about having sex with a goddess. He's talking about having sex with an Indian female. And they know that. All right? It's okay for say a little 11-year-old girl gonna look man. A little 11-year-old, 15-year-old Amerindian girl's gonna look man. But now, a boy talking about sex with an Indian woman, you all arrest him. You all arrest him. Sparrow, in marriaging. He said sexy marriaging. Now when we use the word sexy, it's a complimentary term. It's a complimentary term. Sparrow talk about how beautiful marriaging is and so on. Yet they come down on Sparrow. How dare a black man talk about an Indian woman? The fear of white men and non-white men, of their women folk with African men is very deep in the negative reaches of our culture. And that response to Skello, it had nothing to do with Goddess. Take it from me. It ain't got nothing to do with Goddess. It's that Skello is talking about let me choose the right word. He's talking about bizarre sex with an Indian woman. You can't have bizarre sex with Indian women. They are not part of that. Bizarre sex is for black women. And so what they're trying to do is to make a differentiation between sex with an Indian woman and sex with a black woman or an Amerindian woman. And what the artist is doing, the artist is saying, if you want me to sing Stink and Dirty but black women, well, allow me now to sing Stink and Dirty about Indian women. All right? It's okay to sing Stink and Dirty about black women. They're all going to go there at Vice Cartel and jump up with when they're singing. One of the songs they're singing at State House or wherever they went last night or night before the last. What's about sex? So it's okay for the singer to sing about explicit sex with black women, but not with Indian women. Skello not think about having no sex with Lakshmi. Lakshmi is used there as an imagery of black women. Just like Marajin. The Marajin is the wife of the Pandit. All right? The Pandit is the intermediary between the people and the Indian god. So when you're singing about e-wife, all right, you're touching a nerve, right? And what those guys are doing is they are bringing female womanhood into the same sexual space that they have black womanhood. No, I don't agree with them songs that sing against black women. I don't agree with it. And so by extension, I can't agree with it when they're singing it about Indian women. But my point is that the hypocrites among the Indian elite who have no problem in Skello singing about explicit sex with black women,
right?
Have a problem with him singing it about Indian women. They know damn well he's not having any sex with no goddess. Goddess is the imagination. When we talk about God and goddess, we are imagining. They're not flesh and blood that we can touch, right? We are in, so they know it ain't no sex with no imaginary goddess. He's talking about dirty sex. Stink and dirty sex with Indian women. And that's what they're up in arms about. And when they're ready for me to come for me, let them come to me for explaining a sociological phenomenon that they don't want to talk about.
Well, Dr. Hines, they're not going to come for you because I am hoping that the ERC is taking a night off. They know how I deal with them already. So I hope that they're taking a night off. All right. And that's well put, Dr. Hines. I mean, when you look at Baby Skello, you look at Vybz Kartel, you look at all the artists that the government sometimes promotes in Guyana, they promote the same thing. The government promote the same thing. This is all aligning with the type of government the country has, right? So why complain? Why is the ERC so biased? Okay? The ERC could have pulled in Barry Jagdeo like 100 times already for things that would have came from his mouth, including this last press conference, right, where he said Guyanese cannot be that. Why would you, as a leader, why would you use a word like stupid at your press conference? Guyanese can't be that stupid. Well, you know what, Dr. Hines, I look at the comment, I look at the statement that he made, and I look at where he used the word stupid, and I say, you know something? Barra Jagdeo could only use a word like stupid so loosely because he has a set of African Guyanese out at the border there, set to give their lives for this nation, right? The nation, the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, with weapons that are not up to standard, that when they pick it up and they aim it and they fire, they don't even know if a bullet is going to come from the weapon. Okay? They're paddling through rivers with canoes. They're doing all kind of things, trying to defend Guyana, a country that those same soldiers have no equity in, because there are many of them who does not even have a piece of land in Guyana, but yet is fighting for Guyana. You know, it is shameful. It is just shameful to watch, you know, Guyanese sign up to be a part of the Guyana Defense Force. Okay? And this government treats them with no measure of love, no measure of care, you know. None at all whatsoever. I believe, Dr. Hines, when you join the Guyana Defense Force, you know, and you would have completed at least 5 years of service, you should be given a piece of land in Guyana. It should be automatic. Okay? It should be automatic. It should be no serviceman or women in the Guyana Defense Force over 5 years that does not have a free plot of land given to them by the government. All right. You know the risk those young people are out there on that border taking. Their weapons are not compatible to Guyana Police Force, and worse yet, not even close to what Sheriff Security has. Okay? But they're the ones that have to be on the front line. Where is Sheriff Corporation? Where are all of these people that usually are on the ground bullying the Guyanese people and acting like if they own the country? Where are they now? Where is Irfan Ali? He should go to the border and hold up a Guyana flag. Where is Nandalal? Where is Jagdeo? After all, Dr. Hines, it was Jagdeo who said that we should consider giving Venezuela a channel out to sea. Right? It was Barra Jagdeo that said that. Maybe that statement would have given Nicolas Maduro the tip that, hey, I believe this man is of the position that we actually own Essequibo, and he's trying to negotiate with us, saying that he's going to give us a channel out to sea. Barra Jagdeo should have been charged, Dr. Hines, with treason for making such a statement without the permissions of the Guyanese people. He should have been charged with treason. He likes to talk about charging others with treason. He should have been charged with treason. But Barra Jagdeo, that statement that you would have made at your last press conference on Thursday, that the Guyanese people are stupid, they're going to show you this coming election that they're not stupid. But Dr. Hines, my next question to you. We had a budget of $1.3 trillion. Why is it that we're going back to Parliament requesting $57 billion? Why is it that our static budget is off by that amount?
Well, 60% of 1.3 trillion has gone in people's pocket, because 60% gone to infrastructure. And that is the way of transferring money into the pocket of the PPP acolytes, what the young politicians are calling friends, family, and favorites. And so therefore, when they present a budget to us, it's really a three-card trick, right? They are presenting to us money for the boys and the girls. And when you give the boys and the girls 60% of $1.3 trillion, not much is left to do the other things that government is supposed to do. And so what they're doing is stealing the money with one hand and then using their power to then stretch their hand and dug their hand in the oil money that is coming in. So it's really a three-card trick that they're playing with us on these budgets. And so therefore, I am arguing, my party is arguing, that look, a budget must be passed with 2/3 majority in Parliament. That is, when the government puts a budget before the National Assembly, you must have 2/3 of the National Assembly saying yes to that budget before you can pass it. So that you can pass a budget with 50% plus one. All right? You now ensure that before that budget leaves the National Assembly, it's a budget that is signed off on by the vast majority of the representatives of this country, so that the budget does not reflect the spending, the spending dynamics and the spending likeness of liking the spending liking of the PPP, because what you have is a PPP budget. And
correct.
They say we are fulfilling our manifesto, but that manifesto is your party manifesto. And then when you get into government, you now have to talk about a manifesto for the country, not a manifesto for your party. My party is now working on a manifesto. We have a manifesto committee headed by Professor Clive Thomas. They're working on a WPA manifesto. WPA is more likely than not to go into the election with others in a coalition. It means that our budget will now have to, let's say we're going in with the PNC and the AFC. They're working on their own budgets. It means that the three of us now will put our budgets together and come up with a coalition budget that is no longer a WPA budget or a PNC budget or an AFC budget. It moves to a coalition budget. And then when we get into power, that budget is no longer the coalition budget. It becomes now the country budget, because we have to adjust that budget, right, to deal with the clear and present priorities of the country. So you start with your party budget. Then if you're going in as a coalition, you move to a coalition budget. And then when you get into government, you now have a government budget. And
that is right. That is right.
And so therefore, we are saying in that way, you cut out all the fat. You cut out all this, the or most of the scope for thieving in the budget. That if the WPA says 30% of the budget should be on infrastructure, the PNC says 35% on infrastructure, the AFC says 25% on infrastructure. We are part of a coalition. We now will have to look at infrastructure and then come up with a coalition. A portion of the budget. That's how you govern. You can't govern for a party. The party is at the base. And as you move upward, you're moving from party to country.
Right. It's an integration at different levels. Correct, that's Dr. Right. Hines. And Dr. Hines, I could not have agreed with you more when you talk about that budget. It should not be 50+1. I have been saying this for such a long time, because what I'm going to say, what it does, right? If you say like 60% should vote on the budget before it is passed, it encourages engagement, right? It encourages engagement. It's not a one-man show. It's not a runaway train, right? It brings engagement into play, and I love that. I love that. All right, Dr. Hines, the guest is just asking for you to quickly speak on the North that is incarcerated.
That is Stuff like that gets me angry. Here's a child. She's little more than a child, early 20s. She's not a political activist. She's having a private conversation with somebody else. That person then leaks that conversation to the public, in which she's saying, I was there. And they're claiming she was there when she wasn't there. All right. Can you explain to me how she's saying she was at the postmortem examination? Tell me, how does that change anything? How does that change the result?
Right. Yes.
Tell me, how does that change how people feel?
Right.
About this thing.
Correct.
Tell me how go from lying is a human. Some will say something
that's innately human.
Human beings. We all create what we call the truth. I remember as a little boy, you go into school, you see you one of your classmates and you like shit, and you're thinking in your head, you all get married and you all have a family and so on and so. Imagine lying, the Mighty Bomber as a calypso. If you see the little saga boy, he say, you are the mommy, I am the daddy, and then we do, and we make a family. The old timers in calypso would know that calypso. We are always imagining things, and lying is part of the imagination. All right, tell me, how does that change the reality of anything in Guyana? If Jack Dio lies, it changes the imagination. It changes the reality. Perhaps if I lie, it changes the reality. Although I don't have formal political power. But Jack Dio, Van Ali, they have formal political power. And they lie to us every goddamn day. The police lie to us about Adriana. And nobody from the police has been charged for terror. And this girl, whatever she's telling, whoever she's telling, it's a private conversation. And somebody leaked that private conversation. So if I went out drinking with my friends, and I go home, and I tell my wife, I was at work, I work late, and she leaked that conversation, I can now be charged for terrorism. Because it's a private conversation. So that thing gets me so angry. And how can a magistrate watch a little girl come before her with such a terrible charge and remand that girl?
Yes.
I mean, I am telling you, look.
Yes. Very good point.
Look, we got to clean Guyana up. We have to clean Guyana. How can a magistrate? I went before a magistrate in 1983, leading a march in Buxton. Now you all know how old I am. Leading a march in Buxton. We went into the school and we telling the children them come out and march with us because we were marching against the shortage of food items and so on. And them little children went downstairs. In those days, used to have school garden. The people picked their tomato, and they had tomato downstairs. And I don't know if one of the children, some of the children, must be mashed couple tomato. Anyhow, I sit in home, police come and tell me I am wanted at Vigilance Police Station. And when I go there, they say, I have to appear in court tomorrow, charged with damaging a tomato. Damaging. Now, but those charges are still on our books. They're slavery charges. That charge, when was on the slave plantation, damaging a tomato. That case come up before an Indian or Sri Lankan. I think she might have been Sri Lankan woman who was a magistrate. Her name was Chinta, Magistrate Chinta. When the police carried that thing, that lady watched the policeman She said, you are bringing somebody in front of me with a charge damaging a tomato, a charge that was there in slavery time. She said, get out of my court. Mr. Hines, you are free to go. Story done. She did not even entertain it. Did not entertain it.
Yes.
In 1983, you were charging somebody with damaging a tomato. And she didn't even hear it. And so this magistrate, when that girl she should send that girl home. Girl, go home and take care of your children.
Yes.
The magistrate has the authority to do it.
I agree with that.
If that magistrate remand that child, our magistrates, they need to get with the program. I am not saying to interfere with the judiciary, but I'm saying
give her a warning and send her off.
Let's go before you. Send that girl home to take care of her children.
I agree with you, Dr. Hines.
There's so much cleaning up to do in Guyana.
I agree with you, Dr. Hines. Give her a stern warning and send her home.
Yes.
I agree with that.
Send her home.
Send her home. Send her home.
Our places at home with your children, not in jail.
Agreed with you, Dr. Hines.
This is somebody who's trained to contribute to our country. She's a nurse. To help to save lives, to take care of our old people and our children. Go home and take care of your children and go to work the next day. This is such an unfeeling government, and some of our people in positions are going along with the nonsense. That is why they don't like Justice Kissoon. That is why they don't like Justice Kissoon. Tell them, get out of here, and you have no authority to take out pay from the teachers. They're on strike. They're not staying home for drink rum. They're on strike, which means technically they are at work. They're at work. Striking is part, you're on the job. That is why Justice Kissoon said. The court sometimes has to move from beyond, and that's my problem with our court system, you know? Our justices. They're not, they're strict constructivists, meaning they interpret the law in a strict way. Yeah.
Well said, Dr. Hines. Well said, Dr. Hines. We're looking at time here, and I am going to now ask you for your closing remarks, Dr. Hines. You know, if you can give the Guyanese people a measure of hope, I would like to have you back here very, very soon on this program, because we have a lot more to discuss, you know, and it would be good to have you back. I wanna dig in more on the opposition, but that's another show, you know, and I'm hoping that I can get you back here next month, Dr. Hines, for sure. We're gonna have a whole show that we're gonna talk about the opposition. But for now, sir, and again, thank you for coming in. Your closing remarks, Dr. Hines.
Thank you, Wayne, for having me. And, you know, this may be, have I ever come on your program before? I think
yes, Dr. Hines, you were here once before, yes.
Once before. And dereliction of duty, I really should be doing more of shows like yours. And so, but I thank you for pursuing and persevering, and here I am tonight. It's one thing to be on your own show, where you dictate the pace and the tenor. It's another thing to have to field the questions from somebody else. I think it requires you to put some more thought into your answers, and I hope that I have endeavored to do that. And I just want to say thank you for having me. Thank you for believing that somebody like myself has something to say. Because, you know, we live in a country that don't believe that people who look like you and me, or talk like you and me. You know, we're there in America, but we're still talking like we come from Plaisance and Buxton, right? Yes. We're not speaking the president's English. Or, you know, in England, they say the Queen's English. Here we say, you know, we're not speaking the president's English, which means that that we still have our ears to where our roots exist. All right? And so the fact that social media has afforded us the opportunity to speak, and to speak in a language that our people understand, to speak in a way in which they can say, but I thought about that 2 years ago, Dr. Hines. All right? Which means that what you are doing is not really teaching them anything in the strict sense. What you are doing is taking their own teachings and being the vessel to give it back to them.
Reinforcing.
Yes, and that's what's consciousness. Consciousness is that I think about this thing, but I didn't have the confidence to say it. Or you know what old people say? But you take the word out of my mouth. All right, you see, and so therefore, what this social media has done is that it has opened up possibilities for ordinary people to feel that they're part of the discourse in the country. No longer is it confined to a reporter come and push a mic in front of the leader and the leader talk and so on. Now here are people writing on their keyboards and they're making profound points. And we are in a conversation. We are in a conversation. So I want to thank you for inviting me on a Saturday night to engage in this conversation. How much we have changed, how much we have raised the bar. Saturday night, you put on your little Sagabai shot and pans and you go up on the road. And you know, you're drinking your beer and you're eating your black pudding and your sauce. And if you're younger, you're gone for hostel girls and so on and all that thing. That is what Saturday night was about. Now here we are with hundreds of people on a Saturday night talking about Guyanese politics. I love it. I love it. So I promise you, my brother, I am coming out of retirement.
Good. Thank you so much again, Dr. Hines. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a great lesson tonight. Great lesson. I know that the audience, I'm looking at the comments, they want you to come back. So thank you so much. Guys, again, thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing the link. This is your show. Over to you. A program for the people, by the people. As I leave tonight, I call on the government of Guyana to release that nurse, release all those people that they're charging with terrorism, you know, especially if you cannot identify the person being involved in any looting or anything. You just can't pick up people and just have them in jail. I'm calling for all those individuals to be released this evening. Okay, the Guyana Police Force, you have better things to do, right? We all saw the video with Jagdeo and Sue. You guys have never arrested Barry Jagdeo. You've never charged him with anything. Nothing has came out of that. So we're asking tonight that that nurse be released. And last but not least, we are requesting justice for young 11-year-old Adriana Young. We need justice. The Guyanese people will not rest until there is justice. No justice, as the people said, no peace. Until next Saturday. Wait, one thing before I leave. Let me just give a quick shout out to Robin Aline Barnwell. She celebrated her birthday. Otto Martin also celebrated his birthday this week. And also DJ Shrimpy. Happy birthday to all of you guys. Until next week, love you guys, love you guys, love you guys. Take good care of yourself. Good night.